is why my quote, everything is better with better sleep, because it's the foundation for everything. It opens up a window for opportunities and possibilities. Yeah, because here's the thing: when you're sleep deprived, your emotional amygdala in your brain is amplified, and this is why we're easily triggered. When you're sleep deprived, you're easily triggered. Whereas when you've slept well, you have more resilience emotionally.
Hi, Joanne. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, James. How's it going? I'm absolutely, yeah, I'm thrilled. I'm delighted. I love talking all about my life, what's important to me, and all that good stuff. God knows what's going to unfold here in this conversation. So I'm very curious how this will go.
Me too, absolutely. Well, we're just going to dive straight into it. And with the first question, Joanne, which is always, what's important to you?
Do you know, James, I was thinking about that question coming up to this podcast, and my mind was going around in circles because there's so much that's important to me in life. But if I was to really bring it down to one thing, it's helping others to rise, empowering others to rise. And what do I mean by that? You know, especially women, because I feel women have had it tough over the years, you know, going back centuries and centuries. You know, there's like a certain expectation about women, and it's like we're put in a certain box, you know, we're kind of fairly limited. And women, I find, struggle a lot with self-worth, their confidence, and they're trying to prove themselves, be accepted in the family, and now they're running businesses and they're exhausted. And as a sleep coach, I help empower women to rise by optimizing their energy. And you can get there with sleep and rest. And that's really the key thing, is that we start to look after ourselves and not fulfilling on the world and the society's expectations. It's coming back to us, our own self-worth. But really, when we rise, which I feel is the umbrella of it all. When we rise and step into our power, because we have so much to offer the world. There's so much suffering going on in the world at the moment, a lot that we've been challenged with. And I really feel that women have a place to serve others. And we're full of empathy, compassion, all those traits. And not everybody wants to do that. Not everyone wants to be a leader, but who it is that wants to step up and rise. And even you can rise to a level that's comfortable for you. But I think for so many women, we're trying to break through that glass ceiling, wherever that glass ceiling is for you. And we can talk about success and all of that, you know. But that's the one thing that's most important to me, Dean, is empowering women, empowering others to rise and step into their full potential, and doing that with better sleep and rest.
Love it. Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting word, powerful word that you said, rise. It's really because it's the first time I think that's words being used in that context on the show. So I think it's a really different one, because I immediately, when you said it a few times there, I had the images that were coming into my mind were kind of like mountains, climbing, stairs, those sort of, that was the visionary I had. And then when you say you couple it with empowering as well. But I think so, I think it's a really interesting word, because there's also momentum in that word to me as well when you say rise. Do you know what I mean? So it's a continuation. It's not an end thing, is it?
A
It,
continuum.
yes,
It's a
exactly.
continuum. And do you know who used that word on your podcast before? Fiona Dowd.
Yes.
Fiona Dowd used that word, and we got that from our friend Philip in the PSA. He helped us with that word. But yeah, it's a continuum. And we rise and we fall. And look, life is not a straight path.
Yeah.
It's not a straight path. We're up and down. We climb the mountain. And it's not like it's a final destination when when
Yes.
we reach the top. There's loads more mountains out there. There's loads of obstacles and challenges. And I think the purpose of it all is to become a better human being, to become more resilient. You know, this part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, you know, is a relatively new part of our brain in terms of evolution, right? And human beings have that. And what's the purpose of that? Well, you know, we can do a lot with that. We can create things, and we can plan and structure, and we have consciousness. And I think through our learning and growing, this is a new added feature and upgrade to
Yeah.
evolution. and there's a lot that we can do with that. So we're always learning and we're always adapting. Our species, human being life, it's always adapting and becoming better and better and more advanced. So I think it's really amazing. I think human beings are amazing creatures, and we are not tapping into even like we're just a tiny bit tapping into our potential. Like there is so many possibilities out there and things that we can achieve in this world to make it a better place and reduce our own suffering as well. So anyway,
Yeah,
it's a journey.
absolutely. And I mean, I'm interested as well in the sense, I think it's really interesting. That was the first answer you gave in a sense of that, to rise, to help women, empower women to rise and up and do their thing. Because my assumption was obviously going to be that your most important thing to yourself was sleep. So I
Yeah,
find
yeah, yeah.
it, because obviously you refer yourself as the sleep coach, but you did bring that in about the sort of how you do it. It's about your
Yeah.
energy. So tell me, because I'm dying to know in a sense of like about the sort of the element of the sleep coach and how that energy sleep brings you into that thing of helping people rise.
How it all works together. Yeah. James, I'm so glad you asked that question because for years, like the whole sleep thing, right? I I was a sufferer of bad sleep for years and years and years, right? And I came to value sleep because I got to see and feel better and who I was when I got better sleep, right? Such a a simple thing that many of us take for granted, right?
Mm,
But science has shown us time and time again. Research has really only started in the last 20 years or so. Really
mm,
deep research on sleep, right? Because we've been taking it for granted for so long, and so how does it all come together? So I believe that we are energetic beings. We're physical. We have a body, right? And I can get woo woo, in some of my teachings and what have you. What people refer to it as woo woo, but
yeah,
we are energetic beings. We actually vibrate, right? If you like the microscope, you can see cells, and um it's shown that now, quantum physics, that's the word I was trying to think of. It's
yeah.
it's getting married into science, and it's showing us this now. It's really, really an exciting time. But when we optimize our energy, so it has been shown that, our different states. So if we're feeling depressed, if we're feeling like grief or shame, or if we're angry, or if we're joyful, if we're happy, if we're excited, we actually vibrate at different energies, different frequencies, and even different diseases vibrate at different frequencies, right? It's bizarre, but like science has shown all this now, right? So what do I mean by optimizing your energy? Well, when we sleep better and also when we rest better as well.
Mm,
So sleep is a byproduct of rest, right? And when I kind of discovered this and put this together, it was like, wow, because rest is a very important part of our daytime as well. We can't go working 9 to 5 nonstop, right? And this is where burnout comes from, right? And then the typical jobs, we work 9 to 5 and we come home, we're flaking out on the couch, right? Because we're working too hard, long hours, not enough breaks, right? You're seen as lazy if you're slacking
mm,
off or go hiding or whatever, like I used to do, right? When I was working in corporate, I used to go missing in the ladies' toilets, and because I was exhausted, right? But energy, when we mind our energy, and we can delve into it, but there's various ways that we can mind our energy. But when we mind our energy, it optimizes everything about us. It optimizes our physical energy, our mental capacity, our emotional health as well, how we
mm,
respond to things emotionally. Are we easily triggered? How's our resilience? Our spirituality is an energy of itself. Are you feeling a bit deflated? Or what's your outlook on life? Are you really optimistic about life? Do you want to cause a change in the world? Like what is it that's important to you? Like, and all these things, it's all energy. It all comes down to energy. So when you rest and when you sleep well, science again has shown us how it benefits everything. And, one of my favorite quotes that I talk all about, I say, everything is better with better sleep. Everything. Your
mm.
physical health, your immune system, your brain health, even the whole process of clearing your brain out at nighttime with toxins. There is so much. I mean, I wrote a book on it, how to get a good night's sleep, but there is so much that you can benefit and optimize your energy. Because if you're detoxifying too much, if you've got an over toxic load in your body, and even emotionally, you can be overly toxic emotionally, your body is having to do a lot of healing and repairing at nighttime. And like, that's why a lot of people find they're so tired during the day. They need to do more recovering. I mean, I could go into this, and we will in this conversation. But ultimately, when you optimize your energy, your cells work better, and all your different levels of being work better when your energy is optimized, and therefore you'll sleep better, so that you'll do more healing, repair, and all that good stuff that happens at night. And
Yeah.
the future is so much brighter, and there's so many more possibilities. You're in a better state to create when you've slept well, and your energy is better, and all that good stuff, James.
Absolutely. And I'm interested in regarding it in a sense of, what do you think is when someone comes to work with you specifically around sleep? Because I know you
Yeah.
others think, but if they come to you for that specific reason, that they don't feel that they're getting the best sleep, what are the sort of commonalities, do you think, the people who are struggling, what are they people doing that's preventing them from having good
Oh my
quality
God,
sleep?
how long do we have? But
I
the
know.
typical things are so it's interesting, James, right? It's interesting because some people come to me and they say, Joanne, I'm exhausted. I'll give anything for a night of sleep, right? So there's that category of people.
Mm,
There's also the category of people that are like, Joanne, sleep is a waste of time. Like, who invented sleep? I could get more done. Like, if I just stayed up an extra hour, if I get up early in the morning, I'll get more work done. People trade their time for making money, and being
yes.
productive and what have you. And sometimes it's too much. Our body is very forgiving, yes, when we're younger, but not when we get older. But how you look after your body and your mind and everything will serve you later on as you go through life. But ultimately, a lot of people the people who come to me that are tired, exhausted, it comes down to the nervous system, James, the nervous system, right? And the feeling of being safe, right?
Interesting.
So, yeah, the feeling of being safe. So, because I was asking myself that question, what is it? Like, if I was to bring it down to one thing, like the big umbrella, and it's people do not feel safe. Now, what do I mean by that? So, when we go to sleep at nighttime, yes, the doors are locked, the alarm might be on or whatever, right? So, you're in a secure building. But have you ever gone to bed and you've had that rant, your brain just switches on and you just can't go to sleep? I should have done this today. You might have had an argument with somebody, or I should have said this to them, and you're just ruminating about things. And then you're ruminating, if you didn't get a job done today, you're like, why didn't I finish that? I'm so stupid. I should have done this. Or, we're giving out about ourselves. All this rumination, various different things, right? So when we're going on, that's all negative thinking. And that comes from a place of not feeling self, not feeling worthy enough, not feeling good enough. And every single one of us has an element of not feeling good enough. And most of the time that comes back to childhood stuff. And then it's reinforced as we go through life. There's layers and layers and layers. And then the family that we grew up in, the conditioning, the programming, the teachers we have in our life, social media, going to school, all this stuff determines who we are, who we become. And then, we base that's our baseline for everything, and it's our level of resilience, if you like. And so if you grew up in a family where money is a big thing, like there's a scarcity of money and people always want to make more money just for the sake of having more. But money is an energy as well. And you could have come from a family of an alcoholic who spent all the money like I did, right? That's my story. And money is an interesting conversation. So many coaches, entrepreneurs, anybody starting their own business, they're driven to start a business for a reason, right? And that's to change something, to make a difference in the world. And usually as part of their story, something that happened to them in their life that they don't want it to repeat for somebody else, right? And they've had that experience, and that's their story and all the rest. But when we have that story and that programming, we're still, even me, I'm still learning. I still have my challenges. I still have my triggers, but I've become more conscious of them. And again, it's not a straight path. It's up and down, right? And I'm always open to learning, being coachable, all that sort of stuff. And I know I'm after going off track here. You can see how passionate I am about all of this, right? But ultimately, the people who come to me, it's about the nervous system, right? Not feeling safe. And we can feel not safe emotionally. We can feel like we need more love. I came from, I'm not loved. That was my story. I'm not loved. My mother and father don't love me. My mother, um, did everything to keep the peace in the house. My dad drank quite a lot, drank all the money, all that. There was all sorts of stories around all of that. I didn't feel loved. And then when I was 16, I was a single mother and still doing my leaving cert while I was pregnant, right? Just about to have my baby. And all that story of not feeling safe, not feeling loved. So that's an emotional element. And there's so many reasons why we don't feel safe. But ultimately, so your nervous system, here's the thing, your nervous system has two main parts to it, right? The fight or flight, I think most of your listeners will know this as well as yourself, James, the fight or flight, and then the rest and calm, the digest. So we're always fluctuating between the two of them, and both are important. They do serve us. Like, we do want to have our fight or flight. We don't want to walk in front of a bus. We want to be, alerted to that, whatever. But the thing is, we're in the fight or flight too much, and an awful lot of it is perceived threats. It's not really happening. It's our perception. It's our brain making up all the stories, right? So there's a lot of ways that we can feel unsafe. But when we feel unsafe, when we're sleeping at nighttime, if we go back to when we lived in caves, right, we really had to feel safe to go to sleep at nighttime, right? Otherwise, we'd be eaten by a tiger or a bear or whatever, right? And our nervous system, when we feel safe, it flips onto, there's a flip-flop switch in our brain that literally turns sleep on, to make this say the simplest way. But if we don't feel safe, that won't necessarily turn on effectively. And back in the caves, nature was so clever and intelligent. We have these chronotypes now, like the night owls, the morning lark. And I often ask myself, I wonder why that was. Well, I wonder why we have morning larks and night owls and what have you. Well, nature created that because we couldn't all be asleep at the same time, right? Somebody had to be on alert and on watch out. So the night owls would stay up late and they wouldn't go to bed till, later on in the night. And then we had the morning larks who got up early. So there was always, a portion of the tribe who were awake, and watching out for the danger and what have you. So that's how we've evolved. So ultimately, James, it's down to the ability to be able to feel safe, and how we do that. That's a whole other chapter, how we do that.
Again, no, I mean, it's so interesting, and it makes sense now as you were explaining it, because I'm sure we've all done it. Those nights where it's like, and the almost the consciousness that that your brain is going at not even just about what happened today. It could flip flop to 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You're suddenly back in school or something. You're like, so it's like, and it's like, let's delve into this one. This will be an interesting sort of, and it's, there'll be times where it's like, I know this is kind of madness in a sense of like, but you almost trying to sort of snap yourself out of it. But I understand what you're coming down to, the crux of not feeling safe is a really, again, it wasn't the answer I was expecting, which I find really interesting. Because I think, and this is what's really interesting about this conversation, or interesting talking to you, because a lot of people would just have automatically go, it's people on their phones too late, or they're watching TV, they're eating.
That's a big thing as well.
Yeah, but they would have thought of something physical. They would have thought of something.
So why are they on the phones?
Exactly.
Why are we so distracted?
Yes.
Because it's a distraction. It's an addiction.
Yes. And is it because then we're doing that because as soon as we put the phone down, or we turn the TV off, or we stop what we're doing, we're trying to either stop or stop that sort of remuneration. So the longer we do something else,
100%.
We're staying off that sort of unsafe space, which is going to then trigger those thoughts.
Distracting ourselves.
Yeah.
We're distracting ourselves. So what's happening there, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, we're with the phones and the mobile phones, and please stop me because I will go on for an hour about this, right? But with the mobile phones, it's really interesting. So, the designers of all these apps and games and social media and what have you, they're all psychologists. They know what they're doing, right, to manipulate the brain and to keep you hooked, right? And all the notifications, the fear of missing out, all the dinging and binging and all this, right? All that stuff. But so it's designed to keep us. And like, my God, teenagers now, they're on their devices 9 hours a day. It's been shown, right, which is crazy, crazy, crazy. And that's a whole other thing. Like, but it's something that really needs to be aware of. And then I know parents would say, oh, but like, and like they have, all their other friends have phones. My daughter is 14. She's 14 now. She got her phone on her 14th birthday. That's what we said. I held off. Oh my God, it was more arguments. But then I got to a point where it was kind of a peer pressure thing because everybody in our class had a phone except her. So she was starting to get bullied then, So it's like, what do you do, So we held out to 14. So she has her phone now. But there are limitations around it. I have a parent app on my phone that her phone switches off at a certain time. She's only allowed a certain amount of time on this app and that app and all parental controls, all that stuff. But the thing is, we get distracted. And distracted from what? Distracted from our work. We're not focused. We're not in control of our brain. We're not in command of our brain, right? And when we're in control, when we lose control, we're easily manipulated. And then you see all these things. You need this. This will make you feel better. They're all the ads. This will make you feel better. This will make you feel better. So now we're programmed that, we're buying everything and anything, and now we're broke. And we just feel the need. Our sense of control and what it is we actually need and want is lost. We're been told what it is that we need through all these things. But the whole thing about the procrastination and the addiction is it's stopping us from doing the thing that we really need to be doing, right? So procrastination, and it's interesting, like we can procrastinate with other things. We can make ourselves busy doing other things like washing the floor, or I find myself, if I'm cleaning out my fridge or if I'm cleaning the bathroom, right, if I go mad, I deep dive into cleaning that, I'm like, okay, Joanne, you're avoiding something here, because I want to make myself busy, right, so that I don't feel the guilt, right, of being lazy. So I said, okay, Joanne, you're avoiding something here. What is it? And there's something I really should be doing. I should be getting a new course out on my platform or whatever it may be, right? So we're always, and it could be something emotional, it could be a conversation, a difficult conversation that we need to have with somebody, right? We're avoiding something if we're procrastinating. That's the bottom line. So we need to ask ourselves, what is it I'm avoiding? And here's the thing about ruminating at nighttime. When we go to bed at nighttime, the reason that all these thoughts just flood into our head the minute we hit the pillow is because we've been procrastinating all day long. We haven't dealt with the thing that needs to be addressed, the elephant in the room. And now we're quiet. Now we're alone with our thoughts. We're in bed. We've no devices or whatever it is that keeps us distracted. So we're just in bed alone with our thoughts, literally. And that's why they come flooding in, because we haven't dealt with them all day. And that's what happens. So there's a lot of tools that we can do at nighttime to avoid that. Obviously, journaling. And, people have their different ways of dealing with it. Journaling is a great thing to do. Just writing it all down. Just start off with a question: what am I avoiding? And just fill it in. Fill it in. And there's loads of powerful questions that you can ask yourself. There's loads of mind games to distract yourself. One that I absolutely love, and especially with children, is I play this game. What is it called? The cognitive shuffle, it's called. I call it cognitive shuffle. And it's like, name all the countries in the world beginning with A. And I go first, and then my daughter will take the B's, then I take the C's, and so on. And you do that just to wear out the energy of the brain until eventually your brain just gives up and falls asleep, right? And you can do this with anything, like you can do it with TV shows or whatever, right? And it just occupies your brain. It's giving your brain something to do, because your brain is always, if you're in a threat state, a perceived threat state, your brain is always looking for the answer. That's why we ruminate, So when you're giving your brain something to do, it eventually makes it tired and you go to sleep. That's the way it's supposed to work anyway.
Yeah. Hi, James here. If you've been watching and thinking, I would like to make a change, but not sure where to start, that's where I can help. My 12-week coaching program will enable you to reconnect with what matters most and move forward with clarity and confidence. If that sounds like you, head over to jamesdeancoach.com. Now let's get back to the episode. Yeah, no, I love it. No, the point you made there, I think makes so much sense, is that even so, the point when if you look at your phone in bed and as soon as you put it down, if you're in that place where you haven't taken those moments throughout the day to just to think,
Yeah.
of course they're going to come in, because everything else is, they're still there, so they have to come through some point. So
Yeah.
that makes absolute sense there. And it's like, so because it was making me think there, it's like one of the things that I do every day, because they'll go crazy if I don't take them. I have dogs. I have 3 Labradors,
Oh,
so
lovely.
they have to be walked. Otherwise, they'll let you know, because they'll go out of their minds. And it's one of those things. I have this sort of like, because I do a lot of sort of like videos, or like my recording on my when I'm going for the walk, like very short sort of videos of something that, but it's almost like a thinking process as
Yeah.
I'm walking. So
Yeah.
it's like there's a discipline in the sense of like, all right, I've got a short period of my path where I walk, where I have to do this bit of recording, but it's in the moment, and it's a way of processing the thought that's in my head, get it out, and it's to share something out there. And then it's like, right, and then it's just walk.
Yeah.
It's without, I don't use headphones to listen to something, I don't listen to music or anything. It's that sort of, barring that, maybe that, and not every
Mm,
day I don't do a video. It's like some days it's like, if
yeah.
there's something I want to get out of my head, but there's some days it's just like, no, it's just to walk, for the no other reason than to walk,
Yeah.
to and allow those, it's having those moments. Because it's like, I find myself, I don't want to completely knock or bash sort of tech and social media, because
Oh, it's very
I
useful, but
useful, absolutely.
we need to be in control of it.
It's exactly, and that is the point. It's kind of like the taking that agency of and personal accountability of, are you using it for a benefit, or is it taking away from yourself as such,
Yeah, it's
but
been
it's,
aware of it. It's just to
yeah,
be aware and
totally,
be conscious. I love what you said about going for the walks and what have you, because that's movement, right? And
yeah,
energy is, and our emotions they're always moving, And we talk about when we're stagnant. Sometimes the best thing to do, if you're blocked, and whatever you're stuck, best thing to do is walk. For most
mm,
people, and my ideas come to me as well when I'm in the shower.
yeah,
Like I'm like, if somebody invents a waterproof paper writer thing, right, they make a fortune. Because there's a lot of people like that as well. All the ideas come to you when you're in the shower, and I don't know if it's the water flow or what, like, but you're just been still and you're been with yourself and been with your thoughts, and all these things come in. But movement, like when you're going for a walk, sometimes if you're in a bad mood and you just don't know what it is, going for a walk is probably one of the best things that you can do. And then you're out in nature as well, right? And you're getting
yes,
the fresh air, you're getting sunlight. Oh my God, I could talk about sunlight. That's another thing that's really important for sleep, optimizing your energy. But yeah, being outside in nature is so super important. Plus, you can ground yourself when you're outside,
yeah,
in the grass, the trees, whatever. Grounding is something that is so overlooked as well, James. It's so overlooked. We're just full of static and oh my God, like
yeah,
look up grounded. There's a very good film called the Grounded and another one called The Earthing Movie. So that they're two good movies for your viewers. Oh my God, lots of
brilliant,
science in it, and it's on YouTube, and there's no ads on them as well, which is great. So,
yeah,
but they're
fantastic.
two good films.
Yeah, no, because you definitely, it's that thing of the two things. One, they say the movement, but the walking thing as well. I think it's such a um, arguably easy thing to do. The most
It's a form
accessible
of
thing you
rest.
can do.
It's a
Yeah, it
form of
is.
rest.
Yeah,
Even though it's physical, even though you're
yeah,
physically doing something, you're giving yourself mental rest.
yeah,
You're giving
completely.
yourself mental rest when you're going for a walk.
Yeah,
And there's various different, like we need to take rest in our physical, our mental, emotional, spiritual, social, even. Like, have you ever
yeah,
hung out with somebody who's driving you nuts and you're like, I can't wait to get away from this person? Like, they're complaining, right? And like, I remember doing an exercise one time myself to record every time I complained. And I remember bringing my daughter to school one day and I complained. It was more than 30 times. And I was astounded by the time I got home, like, how many times I was complaining about the traffic, about the weather, about being late. And it's an energy drainer. So watch out for
yes,
where you're complaining, where you're judging, where you're comparing. It's all an energy drainer and it brings you into
yes,
that place of fight or flight as well.
yeah. It's interesting because then, well, if we're talking about, because my immediate assumption when we're talking about sleep, I'm immediately thinking about nighttime and going to bed and going to sleep. But I suppose there's an element there that am I right in thinking when you talk about the rest during the day, or so like during the day? What do you mean when you say rest? What is it that you actually mean?
Brilliant. Brilliant. So to differentiate between the two, because the two of them are really, really
Mm.
important, and I'll talk a little bit about nighttime and what happens at nighttime. But rest is so. Actually, let me talk about the cycles at nighttime, and I'll
Yep.
bring that into rest. Right. So at nighttime, when we're sleeping, we sleep in these 90-minute periods, right? And we might have about 4 or 5 of these cycles a night, right? So each one of these cycles is comprised of 4 parts, 4 phases. So light sleep, um, uh, and deep sleep and REM sleep, right? Deep sleep is broken down into 2 parts, depending on where you look it up on the internet these days. But so light sleep and deep sleep. So deep sleep, and this is the non-REM sleep, right? So non-REM sleep and your deep sleep is where all the healing repairing is done. This is where all your and we have this circadian rhythm cycle that all this fits into as well. Um, so this is where all the healing repairing is done. Your immune system is literally built up at nighttime. Your T killer cells are literally made at nighttime when you're asleep, and it's the only time really that they're made in big volumes. And T cells are necessary, right, for all the bodies in our body, viruses and all that kind of stuff, right? If you lack in sleep, have short sleep, maybe 4 to 5 hours, your immune system is comprised by up to 50%. In other words, it's not as effective by up to
Wow.
50% if you have a short sleep. And some people brag, I only need 4 hours or 5 hours of sleep. You might have adapted and learned to cope with it, but in the long term, it's having an effect for sure, and it's been measured. So we have the non-REM sleep, the healing part of the deep. That's a deep phase of sleep, right? Really important for healing and recovery for your blood sugars, your fat burning hormones come out at nighttime. We can actually lose weight more effectively when we sleep deeply. That's another one that's probably going to boggle your brain as well, James. But it has been shown we can lose weight more effectively by sleeping well at nighttime because it's to do with hormones. And then we come into REM sleep. So REM sleep is where we dream, right? This is the last phase of the cycle, and it's where we dream. And this is where you can do the mental rehearsals. You can do dream therapy is very powerful. But our dreaming is basically our emotional health. It's managing our emotional health, right? We tend to have these weird, bizarre dreams, and because it doesn't make sense, they're strange because that part of our brain is disconnected from our logical brain. Our logical brain shuts down and goes to sleep at nighttime when we're sleeping. So that's why our dreams don't make any sense at all. Like weird stuff we talk about, like the weirdest things. And there's nothing wrong with us. It's just that this part of the brain is switched off, right? So that's why it doesn't make sense. But our dreams always have a meaning. It's always some kind of a representation. But anyway, without going deeper into that, that's the structure of our sleep at nighttime. Now, interestingly, with REM sleep, when that was discovered in the 1950s, 60s, it was discovered this 90-minute cycle, right? So it's called the ultradian rhythm, right? Now, we're full of rhythms and we're creatures of rhythm, right? There's loads of different rhythms, right? Nature's rhythms, biological rhythms. But this particular rhythm called the ultradian rhythm, it was discovered by the eyelids moving, right? So we have these different phases of activity and passive rest at nighttime when we're sleeping. So our brain is very active at nighttime in REM sleep. And then the bigger portion of the cycle is when we're resting and healing, recovering, right? Now, if you bring this into the daytime, we also have ultradian rhythms in the daytime. So we operate in periods of 90 minutes during the daytime, right? Are you with me so far?
Interesting, yeah.
Right? And these are called ultradian rhythms. So we have these like cycles of peak performance and cycles of low activity where we need to rest in this 90-minute cycle.
Gotcha.
Right. Now we can delve. I do this on my programs and it goes in a lot deeper, but that's kind of to give you the overview.
Yeah.
So when we're aware of it and when we're aware of ourselves, how we operate, because we're all very different. We're all very, very different. And it's to recognize where it is that your energy has been drained, where it is when you need to take a rest. It could be just sitting down having a cup of tea. It could be taking a nap. I am a fan of naps. But earlier in the daytime, there's a way to take naps that won't interfere with your sleep at night. Could be going for a walk. It could be taking a break from someone who's wrecking your head, right? Just complaining all the time, right? Make the excuse to spend less time with that person. I understand with family, people say, well, what about family? Yes, you do have to still see your family, well, in most cases, but you can do a shorter visit or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
it does all these things to consider. But I found it really interesting. It's called the BRAC cycle, BRAC, the BRAC cycle, basic rest and activity cycle. But it's part of the ultradian rhythm. But basically, James, we're full of rhythms. There's all these rhythms.
Yes.
And women have more rhythms than men.
Yeah.
Right? So women, this is one of the reasons why women can tend to be burnt out more. So when we go through, the menopause and all this thing, right? Huge part of our lives and for a long period of time. And even prior to that, when we're still menstruating, right? We have the 28-day cycle. And there's periods in there where we have optimal energy and where we should be resting. So when you take all that into account, then you've got your 24-hour day as well, your circadian rhythm. So there's lots of, I don't want to overwhelm you, but there's lots of ways where we can optimize our energy with rest and performance. And that will enable us, when we optimize that part, our lifestyle during the day, with all the different areas of our life, relationships, work, learning, we're always learning, your financial, all these different areas, the wheel of life we'll talk about. Then we can go to bed feeling safe and sleep well at nighttime. Obviously our food is very important. The water we drink, staying hydrated. It's all important, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It's like we've known this for thousands of years. We've evolved. We've just forgotten. We've just gotten very busy now. We've gotten very disconnected, very, very disconnected. And what's really important now is the future of our children. So for us adults to really be aware of this, because, if you're a parent, we're an example to our children and we need to walk the way for them to learn from our behaviors. But
that's so much. It's so interesting. And I was aware of the sort of the nighttime sort of rhythms that you went through and those, that circadian in that sense, in the sleep sort of rhythms. But I wasn't aware of the sort of daytime one you said. And then as you were saying it to again, it makes sense. And then so it's, I suppose you said it earlier, I think as well, though, it's that whole piece of self-awareness though, isn't it? It's then I don't know if the word, this is my word thinking out loud, whether it's discipline or whether it's a nicer word is maybe the sort of being kind to yourself to take those moments of rest, because it's that thing of like, because there'd be one maybe school of thought that maybe you've seen this when people come to you, is like, oh no, the idea for, if I just keep going, I'll tire myself out. Do you know what I mean? Versus, well, actually, if you take those periods of rest during the day, that would actually enable you to sleep better. It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah, I have a story actually of a client of mine that will really tell that story. He used to, at nighttime, he was so desperate to sleep, right? And there are people out there, I'll do anything to make myself tired, like what you just said, right? So I had a client and he used to run 5K at nighttime right before he went to bed. And he was wiped out, he was exhausted, right? And boy, he was wired.
Yeah.
Because now he was full of adrenaline.
Yes.
Full of adrenaline, right? His cortisol was up, his core body temperature was up. And these are all conditions that are not ideal for sleep. We need our core body temperature it naturally reduces. It's part of the circadian rhythm. Your adrenaline and your cortisol, they have a circadian, well, the cortisol has a circadian rhythm. It's highest in the morning, it's supposed to be lowest in the evening. So the conditions weren't met. So I said, you know what? Why don't you just switch the time and do the exact same thing? Just switch the timing of when you're doing it. So now he's doing it in the morning. Well, this was a few years ago. And it's made such a difference just by flipping it to a different time.
Yeah.
And naturally, we have more cortisol in the morning. So that's great for if you want to do your exercise or running in the morning. Um, for faster time, for the athletes, for fastest time is in the afternoon around 5 o'clock when our blood flow and circulation is at its peak. That's for fastest time. That's in the afternoon. But in terms of energy and endurance, cortisol is highest in the morning, so that's the best time to do anything like that. So I'm really excited about it, James. I mean,
That's so
it's just eye
interesting.
opening so much that we
Yeah.
can, once we know it, and then adapt it to our own lifestyles and our
Yes.
chronobiology and, what it is we're doing
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely. And what I'm hearing as well from obviously the people are coming to you because of the sleep thing. If again, that's the reason they've come to you, and obviously you coach them in that, and you obviously far more than we can get into in relation to the science
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
background
yeah,
behind it. But is there an element then of when you're working with someone, like any time with anyone comes to a coach, I find there's a
yeah,
few more layers to it. It's not necessarily I just can't sleep well.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
so are you do you find that it's in some ways you're still unpacking and helping them enable other areas of life, and the sleeping better will be a byproduct of them
yeah,
managing something else. Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm glad you asked me that again, James, because I work with a method, a framework,
Yeah.
and because like that, there is so much involved. And it doesn't have to be hard work. It's creating new habits and adapting a new
Mm,
lifestyle, right? So it is a process. It's not something that can be changed overnight, right?
no.
So the sleep success method is my framework. It's my methodology, and sleep is an acronym. S is for self, because the very first step is all about the awareness, how you relate to sleep, right? When we talk about relationships, it's not just people, it's your perceived thoughts, what you think
Mm,
about sleep. Some people think, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I don't have time for sleep. I'll catch up on my sleep at the weekend, right? All these thoughts are energy, right? And it's a reflection of how you are relating to sleep. So what that basically comes down to is it's not a value. You don't value sleep. And we
mm,
talk a lot about values. Values are very important. It's what matters to you most in the world, right? It's whatever your value is, right? And everyone has different values. But ultimately, if you don't value sleep, you're not going to prioritize it. You're going to stay up later doing an extra bit of work. Or like my mother did when we were growing up, she'd stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning cleaning the kitchen because there were six of us. I'm the eldest of six. And it was the only time that she could have peace and quiet and without kids clean the kitchen, right? So that was her priority. So what is it you're sacrificing? What is it costing you? All
mm,
these powerful coaching questions, right? So self is the very first step, right? Understanding all of that, your beliefs, your attitudes towards sleep, right? Um, yeah, your beliefs and your values, all that kind of stuff. And then the next one is lifestyle.
mm.
So it's your daily activities, your habits, and what you're doing from the time you wake up in the morning to the evening time. Your morning routine is very important. Your evening routine is very important, and then what you're doing in between as well. And so what you're doing during the daytime that optimizes your energy, because there is such a thing as being too exhausted to sleep, right? Because your body needs energy to sleep. If you're wired, yeah, I know it's crazy, but you can actually be overtired that won't allow you to sleep properly, right? And you might just get surface level sleep, if anything, but it's
Yes.
not deep, deep sleep, right? You need to go for the deep sleep, right?
Yeah.
So that's lifestyle. Then there's environment. So when I talk about environment, I'm primarily talking about air, food, and water and the phones, right? The mobile phones,
Yeah.
EMF. EMF is an invisible toxin, right? EMF, the radiation. We've wireless everything these days, right? A little bit isn't too bad, but these days there's too much, right? So air, food, and water, what's the common denominator about them? Well, we need them for life. So doesn't it make sense to have the best quality of each of those, right? That will help to optimize our energy for all our cellular activity, less stress in the body, less detoxification, enable us to sleep better at night time. So that's the environment. And then the E is for energy. So I've talked a lot about energy
Mm,
and I talk a lot about rhythms. in there, because we can optimize our energy by optimizing all our rhythms. And there's so many rhythms, right? P is for progress, then the very last one, because life is not a straight line, as we keep saying, right?
Yes.
And in order to maintain your progress, you're going to need tools to bounce back to
Yeah.
when you run into a situation, a circumstance. We all have life events, um, that will, that will set us back. So the little road bumps, how to maintain. So that's the sleep success method, S.L.E.E.P.
Love
And
it.
that's what I use. I go through that process with my clients, and it's a process. And I spent 12 months working on that process, James, because,
Yeah.
and in each of those steps, it's like they're modules, there's a system in itself in each of those modules. And like some of the programs that I offer, they can be just quick ones, just, surface level, or they can be like group coaching or membership. I mean, there's so many, because there's so much involved. So it depends on what level that you want. It could be a simple thing like you're not getting enough magnesium.
Yeah.
Could be a simple little thing like that, magnesium. So many people are deficient in magnesium. It's a big mineral and we need magnesium for the nervous system. And there's many different types of magnesium. I won't get into that, but
Yeah.
magnesium is nature's tranquilizer.
Okay. Interesting.
So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot involved.
No, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it's, I love thank you for going through, taking us through that process, because it sounds, but it's so obviously so much in it, because there is so much in it. Like, do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? There's so much to it. It could be, as you say, something could be quite simple, but that I'd say a lot of the time there's so many layers to it.
yeah,
It's fascinating. I want to ask you though your opinion, as
yeah.
I'm wearing one of the very many wearables that we now have in the world in sense of tech.
Ah!
So because and then one of the things that it does, it give, in a sense, if it does do your sleep pattern thing, and you get the sort of output on your phone and stuff, and I use it for when I'm like my training and day and stuff, and it gives you all these, based on whichever wearable you're using, it has its
Yeah,
version of the data and all you stuff you get out of it and things
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
It's interesting, like, in a sense, and I know more about it now after even just talking to you, when I see that information. What's your sort of take on that sort of tech and where we're going with it?
Yeah, well, trackers are very important because you have to be able to measure it. And I use trackers in the very first step, the self-awareness
Yeah.
step, right? Track, because you have to measure it. But here's the thing about the watches and all the apps and everything, right? Yes, they are good. I do like them. But we can become over reliant on them. Now, there
Totally.
is a word, and I can't recall it now at the moment, but there is actually a word. Uh, there is a word that describes a person who is addicted to their devices. You can
There's
become over.
there's one, I think it could, there's one, I don't know, because my wife works in tech, and there's this thing called emotional reliance is coming
Ah,
out of, like, as you say, within tech, and especially in like
yeah,
the world of AI, that
yeah,
it's like, it's like it's becoming the be all and end all of everything. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? So again, it's that sort of, like anything with tech, it's how
It's a
you, is it
novelty.
is there a benefit to it, is there a sort of the use of it, or is it, you say, it just becomes this crutch, or in sometimes worse, is it like you're gamifying it, you're kind of
Yeah,
like trying to get the best score, and
yeah,
you're kind of like, the looking at the screen again is the, whether you've done right or wrong, versus
yeah,
things that you talked about earlier, in the sense of that sort of self-awareness, how am I feeling,
yeah.
the writing it down. Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? So with the devices, um, yes, it's important, and there's so much information there. It tells you all about your heart rate variability as well. That's another important marker, by the way. Your heart rate variability, that basically just tells you about your kind of resilience to stress type of thing. Heart rate variability. But without going into that one, and I do dive into that in my modules, the heart rate variability. But the thing is, right, when I use trackers, I use pen and paper. Right? I do a
Yeah.
7-day sleep diary, right? A 7-day sleep diary, and I ask various questions. the time you go to sleep, before you go to bed at night time, I ask various questions about your daytime. And then first thing in the morning when you wake up, I ask various questions about how you slept, right? And it's just to track, and it's to identify a trend, right? It's to identify a trend. That's the purpose of it. And so with the electronic devices and the watches and all that kind of stuff, people wake up and say to me, or people say to me, "But John, my tracker said I only got this much REM sleep," and I've said, and my tracker says I'm going to be feeling tired today or whatever. I'm saying, well, answer this question: how are you feeling? Can you tell me how you're feeling? Can you tune into your body and can you tell me how you're feeling? Did you feel that you slept well last night? We lose that connection to ourselves. We have more faith in the tech than we do ourselves. And when you lose that intuitive ability to be able to understand how you're feeling, that's a big problem. So
agree.
that's what I'd say about that.
Absolutely, totally. And I think it's kind of like I've been wearing this wearable for coming up over well over a year, probably it's like 15 months or so, and I found huge benefit to it. But it's kind of like it's exactly the point that you said. It's not to be a slave to it in some ways. It's not to be. It's based on me, so I should still have a version of me
Absolutely.
that I'm aware of, and and kind of like it's data, and data is like anything useful if you use it in a way that's positive and beneficial. You can any data can be misconstrued or used in a way that's to support a perspective. So you kind of have to still have that, to me, that element of yourself and perspective, and don't take everything at face value or too seriously. You know what I mean? It should be there's an enabler, not as a hindrance, in my opinion.
Yeah, to take it on, to consider it, but not take it as gospel.
100%, absolutely. No, I love to thank you. You shared that, and because again, it's like, is it again like even just you saying that the person that's coming, going, no, but the tracker said this, the tracker said that. Again, it comes back to that point you said earlier about not feeling safe. Relying, thinking they're still looking for that external thing versus themselves. They're not trusting themselves.
All your autonomy, this said I'm feeling this way, when you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, and it's powerful.
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, it was hugely powerful because it's like it goes back to the sort of the use of tech and stuff and that, and the fact that it's usually traffic light. It's usually, you know what I mean? So this it's priming us into what we see in sense every day. So again, I'm not trying to knock it, but I try myself to have that sort of conversation myself, to try and sort of contradict myself in a sense of to see it from all sides.
As long as you're tuning into your own body and you're able to, how do I feel right now, and feel it in the body, because that's the thing. And then when we start to become numb to how we're feeling, it's a big problem because, it escalates in so many ways. If we can tune into our body, I mean, our body keeps score. Our body stores so much stuff, and it stores emotions and everything, and
100%.
If we're kind of tuning out and relying on something else, we're not relying on our own intuition. It's our intuition, and how we're feeling, and be able to understand how we're feeling. Because that's when we have power, and there's so much healing that can be done ourselves when we understand how we're feeling, or do I feel a knot in my stomach? Is my chest tight? Where is it? And then it can go into the chakras if you're into that, and all that kind of energy stuff in your aura and all that. But which I do believe in, I do work with that as well. But yeah, and there's something else about tech that I wanted to say as well, is when it comes to the mobile phone, Simon Sinek, don't you? You've heard of Simon Sinek, right? Well, I came across this video, and it's coming back to the children. It's probably coming away from the trackers a little bit. But with the children, what he said was, it's interesting, gambling, smoking, and addiction. Gambling, smoking, and drinking. Yeah, gambling, smoking, drinking. They all come with an age limit, 21 years of age, so depending on where you live in the world, right? And there's reason for that, right? There's reason for that. But here's the thing, right? With all those three things, there is an addictive nature about them, right? it creates dopamine in the body. And the dopamine pathway, listen to this now, right? The dopamine pathway in the brain is exactly the same as been hooked on your phone, scrolling. It's dopamine, right? But there's no age limit on these things,
Yeah.
and our teenagers have them. There's a dopamine addiction, and there's all this conversation about ADHD and dopamine and all that. There's all that conversation out there at the moment, right? But Simon Sinek says this, that it's this exact same pathway with the dopamine. And dopamine is an excitatory neuron. So if you're on your phones late at night time, you're activating your excitatory neurons. It's
Yeah.
keeping you up at night. Plus, it's increasing your brain waves, right?
Yeah.
And our brain waves naturally we have different brain waves, right? The delta brain wave is where we need to get to for deep sleep. So when you're on the phone, your brain waves are up here. And it keeps it. And then the blue light is another story.
Yeah.
It's your melatonin, your sleep hormone. So there's all these components, all these factors that's disrupting our sleep at nighttime with tech. I just thought that was a very important thing just to mention as well.
Absolutely. No, I think it's the, and I think you mentioned it earlier. There's so many. We could literally have done an hour on just the tech side of stuff, but it's like, but it's even like you said earlier, like it's that thing of one, the design of it, one of the fact that we, it's. And I think it's also admitting that we all have those moments when we do it as well, and don't think that we're not. But it's that even the one you mentioned earlier, the sort of the FOMO thing as well, that this might be the one moment that I don't see that particular thing, and almost trying to find that one thing, looking for that, so there's so much of it that's coming back down to this one, the self-awareness one, that sort of
the lifestyle
pieces, all those things you went through in your sleep process, there's so much in it. I know it's absolutely fascinating, and say we could do another hour on it.
This
easily,
is why
Joanne.
my quote, everything is better with better sleep, because
yes,
it's the foundation for everything.
100%.
It opens up a window for opportunities and possibilities. Yes, there may be more work to be done in business. You need your business skills, you need your networking and collaborators and all of that, but it makes you more effective. So I ultimately work with business women, high achievers, business owners, entrepreneurs, but it makes you be a better person to relate to, right? Because, and that's really important when it comes to, especially if you're a solopreneur or entrepreneur, whatever, in business on your own. You need to have those collaborations, and to be successful in your, to feel confident in your networking and collaborating and working with people. Because here's the thing, when you're sleep deprived, your emotional amygdala in your brain is amplified. And this is why we're easily triggered. When you're sleep deprived, you're easily triggered. Somebody says just the smallest little thing and you're off on a rant, right? That's when because your amygdala is like, woo. Whereas when you've slept well, you have more resilience emotionally. And therefore you're just a kinder, nicer person, and this helps with your relationships, your focus, your clarity, and clarity and focus brings confidence and your belief in yourself. I mean, it just builds. So it's just an all-rounder, it really is. Sleep, it really is so important. Everything is better sleep. And William Demont, who's a sleep researcher, says he says, you're not healthy unless your sleep is healthy. And then, it's not true a word. I mean, that is just so powerful. You're not healthy unless your sleep is healthy. He did a lot of work around sleep apnea. That's another thing that a lot of people are suffering with as well, the sleep apnea. But I don't know what else you want to ask me. Then
no, that was fantastic. And you actually brought me. You might have another one, but that was going to be my question there, in a sense of, was there a quote or a phrase that's important?
Well, I have
you
more.
Shared a couple. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, so everything is better sleep. Sleep is your greatest asset. I use that a lot in corporates, because assets, right? Assets and liabilities. So sleep is your greatest asset. A powerful woman is a well-rested woman. There's some of my favorite quotes. A powerful woman is a well-rested woman.
Especially for your sort of primary audience, in a sense, and what you're trying to enable them to achieve. I'd say that one. When you say that to, I'm assuming now, but when you say that to a group of women, is there probably an intake of breath to that one? Is there?
Yeah. It's like, oh my God, who would have thought? Because high achievers and high achievers, and there's different personalities. You might have heard of the colors: the red person, the blue person. The red person is the high achiever. They're bold. They're tenacious. Is that the word,
Yeah,
tenacious?
yeah.
Right, all that, right? And but they need to. They probably struggle with rest more than anything, and to be okay with it. And it's not
Mm.
like it's not a badge of honor that you're working all the time. I mean, you have to look after yourself. Women, and you see, women have that added layer as well, that we're always doing it. We're known as multitaskers. Where we were always we're the carers, right? We're also big pleasers, which is an energy drainer. We're big pleasers, right? And that came from the generational stuff, right? So we need to stop that. We need to change the narrative on all of that to enable women to rise up, to step into their power, to be, that bold leader, and, show up at your best and have optimal energy, and to be clear and focused what it is that you want to achieve in the world, to be focused on the possibilities, what it is that you want your future self, rather than focusing on the past. And that's keeping you stuck. Because when we focus on that stuff, your brain just keeps rehashing it out with the confirmation bias. So the brain just keeps saying, see, I told you, when you're focused on that, if there's a lot of relationship problems with husbands and wives, and divorce and separate, all that stuff going on as well at the moment, which is terrible. But when we're focused, and it's not easy, right? When we're focused in that area of what he did to me, or whatever, right? Somebody putting you down, narcissism, lots of that. When we're focusing on all of that, and there's many women that are in business now, right, and rearing children, they could be caring for their elders as well. But with all that narcissism and what have you, it's making the woman feel less worthy and not worth it, not good enough, and what have you. So it's up to us as women to break through that, right? And to get better sleep, to mind ourselves, really start to look after ourselves, put on the oxygen mask first, all that stuff, right? But it's time now for women to stop focusing on everybody else and pleasing everybody else. It's not like when they're happy, I'm happy. I used to say that, right? We need to stop that. Start looking after ourselves so that we can show up, because we have so much to do in the world. So much has to be done in the world. There's too many people suffering. And men are great, and men are great at different things. There's different things that are both. But when both of us are stepping into our power, and when we can marry that together, oh my God, miracles can happen when we can support each other at what we're best at doing. So it's a collaboration between men and women, and
100%.
it's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Joanne, who would you say have been the biggest influences in your life?
Oh my God. I have a lot of influence, people that I've worked with personally, and then, people like Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Mel Robbins, all those people, right? Lisa Nichols, they've really inspired, Brendan Bouchard,
Yeah.
Tony Robbins, all those. I listen to all their podcasts, and always learn. There's so much information out there nowadays, right?
Yes.
But people that I've actually worked directly with that have been a great influence, Deb Drummond. She's the visionary behind the 262 Women's Project. She has a massive community in Canada and all over the world globally. So I've spoken on her stages. I've co-hosted on her global summits. She brought me to the Emmys over in LA, where I co-authored in a book, the 262 book. She's been an incredible part of my life. She's been here in Ireland twice. We've done events here in Ireland, in-person live events. We do them annually, typically in May. We will be doing one next year as well. Other people like Russ Devan, who is in Arizona, he taught me all about unlearning, detaching from, what it is. It's unlearning. And we've heard of that term. And he talks about designing your life. You design your own life. But he taught me all about active listening, and what it is to, what's working in life, what's not working in life, all these powerful questions in order to design your life. Leslie Feeger, I shared the stage with him a few years ago in Dublin. Pat Slattery, Declan Dowling, so many people like Heather Barry is another lady over in England. She's just on fire. She's a global speaker, and she's involved in more things than I even know of. But anyway, the list could go on. But this is why collaboration is really important.
Yeah. Fabulous. No, it was some wonderful people you said in there. And what I think that I take from anyone, I really love asking that question, obviously from where they get it from, but it's you said it yourself, I think at the very beginning, it's like we're all in that learning phase. We're all trying to keep going. When we mentioned you mentioned the word rise, and I said it's like you can always learn from someone else. You can always get something from someone else. So I think it's great
Yeah.
that you know as you said, the word collaboration a number of times. It's now brilliant.
Mm.
Joanne, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we could have gone on for the same time again and some, I think. But I do have, before I let you go, I do have one more question for you, which is
Okay.
what's important for your future?
Oh, what's important for my future? Okay. Well, I think we're all here to, when we talk about legacy, right? We're living the legacy, the Fiona Dowd, right? My friend Fiona Dowd,
Yeah.
the legacy coach. When we're talking about legacy, it's the way we're leading our life right now at the moment, the legacy that we've taken on from our influencers, right? In the past and people we're working with, but it's also what we're leaving behind as well, right? And the world that we're living in right now, I'm very passionate about family. So my podcast is called Empowering Family Health. Very passionate about family, and I talk a lot about sleep and health in there as well, right? As a way to get there, But what I believe in as parents, I think we have the ultimate role in life, and I think there is no harder job than being a parent, right? And I think, with all the millennials and Gen Z and Gen Z and all that stuff, right? They have a totally different way of living than we did. Like it's very hard for us parents to understand them, So, but I believe that as parents, we absolutely need to walk the way and behave in a way that we want our children to behave. Gone are the days where we can tell our children what to do. It's very short lived. Johnny, don't do that. Put that away. Clean up after, whatever it is, right? It's very short lived. But our children will adapt who they are from who we are being, right? When we sleep well, when we rest well, when we look after ourselves, when we eat well, all these things, put away our phones at nighttime, right? Don't reach for your phone first thing in the morning, right? It dictates your life from the minute you wake up, right? That's why your morning routine is very important. But ultimately, when we behave in a certain way, our children will follow suit. And I think that's probably the most important thing. And I think
Yeah.
it's an honor to be a parent. And even if you're not a parent, as an adult, if you have like a niece or a nephew, you can still influence them. So like take that on as well. It's really important for our next generation. And as women leaders that are rising up in the world as well, we're teaching kindness, compassion, which are skills and traits that we absolutely need in the world right now. So that's my future vision.
Love it. Absolutely love it. As I said, Joanne, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved the chat. It's been wonderful. So much more. I'm sure we'll learn more again. I want to make sure that people continue to support and follow you. We'll have all links in the show notes, but if you would like to give a shout out now of where people can follow you online.
Yeah. So I'm on all the social medias, the usual Johann Callaghan. I spell my name quite funny, Johann. Long story, but I am all Irish. So Johann Callaghan or johanncallaghan.com. I have a YouTube channel as well. Look me up on Spotify, YouTube. My podcast is there as well. So yeah, that's really the easiest way.
Brilliant. You say all of the links will be in the notes for everyone there as well. So make sure you do connect and follow with Joanne. Joanne, once again, thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Thanks a million, James. Really enjoyed it. Sleep well tonight.
Thanks for listening to What's Important to You. If you enjoyed this episode, follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if it resonated, share it with someone who might need it too. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment or ask a question, and let's keep the conversation going. I'm James Dean, and I'll be back soon with another real conversation to help you reconnect with what truly matters. Until then, take care and stay curious.